Let's just get this out of the way right now. If you think the drama inside the British royal family is over, you haven't been paying attention. Because in the last few hours, a moment happened at the private gates of Windsor that has royal aides scrambling, palace insiders whispering, and has effectively reopened a wound many thought had finally healed. It involves the future king, Prince William, and one of the family's most trusted senior royals, Sophie Wessex, and the image alone is enough to make you stop scrolling. Picture this: Sophie, the Countess of Wessex, a woman who has been described as the late Queen's favorite daughter-in-law, a woman known for her discretion and loyalty, is reportedly turned away, denied entry, by her own nephew. It sounds like a scene from a period drama, except it's allegedly happening right now behind those historic stone walls. So what in the world happened? And more importantly, what does Prince William know that made him draw such a drastic, some might say brutal, line in the sand? Let's break down the royal bombshell that is sending shockwaves through the establishment. Now, before we get into the nitty-gritty, you have to understand the context. This isn't just about a family squabble over who sits where at Christmas dinner. This is about Windsor, the fortress. These gates aren't just a driveway, they are the ultimate symbol of sanctuary and inner circle status. To be invited through them is to be trusted. To be blocked at them, well, that's a very public statement. According to reports surfacing from royal correspondence, the incident occurred earlier this week. Sophie, who has been a steady, calming presence within the firm for over 2 decades, arrived at the private entrance. But before she could proceed, she was reportedly met with a firm directive. Security personnel, acting on orders from the highest level, orders that allegedly came directly from Prince William's office, denied her access. Let that sink in for a second. A senior working royal stopped at the gate. It's the kind of humbling moment that no one in that family ever expects to face. It raises a massive question. Was this a simple administrative error, a mix-up in security protocols? Or is this the first public crack in a new, much more hardline era under the Prince of Wales? Here's where the mini payoff comes in. For years, Sophie has been viewed as the royal family's secret weapon. While others were embroiled in public feuds, Sophie and her husband, Prince Edward, quietly got on with the work. She was so close to Queen Elizabeth that the late monarch reportedly considered her a second daughter-in-law. She was the peacemaker, the one who could bridge gaps. So for William to block her, it suggests that whatever is going on isn't about Sophie's character, it's about something else entirely. And that something else is likely the biggest open loop in this story, the battle for control. You see, with King Charles focusing on his health and his reduced public schedule, Prince William has been stepping into a role with far more power than anyone anticipated. He's not just waiting in the wings anymore, he's actively running the show. And according to palace insiders, one of his first major acts as the de facto operational head has been to tighten the circle of trust to an almost suffocating degree. He's reportedly asking who is with us and who is just with us. It's a cold, pragmatic approach that leaves little room for ambiguity, and it seems Sophie, despite her decades of service, might have found herself on the wrong side of that audit. So, what could Sophie have possibly done? Well, this is where we need to talk about the concept of competing loyalties. For a royal, loyalty isn't just about showing up to engagements, it's about information. It's about where your advice goes. It's about who you're whispering to in the corridors. Sources close to the palace suggest that the friction isn't between William and Sophie personally, but rather between William's vision for a streamlined modern monarchy and the more traditional old guard approach that Edward and Sophie represent. Think of it like this. William is trying to steer the ship, but there's a faction, maybe unintentionally, that's acting as a drag anchor. And if you're the future king, you can't have your aunt, no matter how beloved, acting as a sounding board for strategies you've already rejected. It's a clash of eras, and the gates of Windsor just became the physical manifestation of that ideological divide. But here's the real gut punch that adds a layer of human complexity to this. The timing couldn't be worse. This isn't happening during a quiet period. It's happening while the entire family is still navigating the aftermath of the last few years of turmoil. You have to remember, Sophie was one of the very few people who maintained a relationship with both William and his brother during the height of their rift. She was seen as a neutral party, so by allegedly blocking her, William is sending a message that echoes far beyond Sophie. He's signaling to everyone, including those outside the gates, that the era of neutrality is over. You are either on the team that supports his vision for the future, or you are on the outside. It's a ruthless political move disguised as a family matter. And honestly, from a purely strategic standpoint, you can see why he'd do it. He's watched his father's reign be constantly undermined by leaks and internal conflicts. He's watched the institution lose credibility because it looked like a divided house. His logic seems to be, if you want to stop the leaks, you don't just fix the pipes, you control who gets near the water source. It's not personal, it's strictly business, but in a family that markets itself on unity and tradition, business decisions look brutal. But here's the new curiosity gap that keeps this story spinning. What happens now? Sophie isn't just going to vanish. She and Edward have their own estates, their own patronages, and a significant amount of public goodwill. So if William has truly drawn this line in the sand, he has essentially created a new other camp within the family. You have the main group, William, Catherine, and the king, and then you have everyone else. And when you push people to the periphery, they tend to find their own voice. Will we start seeing Sophie and Edward become more independent? Will they carve out a new role that doesn't require passing through William's gates? Or will this be resolved with a quiet, awkward conversation over tea where William explains that it was all a misunderstanding with the security team, and Sophie graciously accepts that explanation to save face? Given the history of this family, the latter is probably the most likely outcome. The royal family is famously allergic to public confrontation. They'd rather sit in silence for a decade than have a difficult 5-minute conversation. But the fact that it got to the point where a public incident occurred suggests that the silence has been deafening for a while. And this is where the story gets even more fascinating when we look at the power dynamics. This isn't really about Sophie, this is about William making a statement to everyone, including his father. King Charles is still the monarch, but he's delegating more and more. By taking such a bold action involving a senior member of the family, William is demonstrating that he's ready to make the unpopular decisions that Charles might be too sentimental to make. It's a subtle power transition. It's William saying, "I'm not just the heir, I'm the future, and the future starts now." And if you're a royal watching from the inside, you know exactly where the authority lies. It's a classic move, honestly. You don't just ask for power, you demonstrate that you already wield it by flexing your muscles on someone who is traditionally untouchable. Sophie, the peacemaker, became the example. So to bring this all back to that moment at the gate, it wasn't just a security guard saying no, it was the sound of a new regime locking into place. It was a message to the old guard that their influence is officially waning. It was a warning to anyone thinking about stepping out of line. And for us watching, it's a reminder that no matter how much polish you put on the crown, underneath it all, it's still a family navigating power, ego, and loyalty. The question that remains dangling in the air, the one that will keep us watching, is whether Sophie will publicly accept this new reality or whether this is the beginning of a new, quieter, but equally damaging Cold War within the walls of Windsor. We know one thing for certain, those gates are now a symbol not just of a home, but of who holds the keys to the future of the British monarchy. And right now, Prince William is holding them very, very tightly. We'll have to wait and see if he decides to let anyone else in.